Hello and welcome to the show. I'm back on BeamNG Drive taking more of your automation vehicles around our Autocross course. And we start with a car from Marx. It's called the BHR R2 Mark I. All-wheel drive turbocharged V6 in this, and while it isn't the most powerful car we have had, it is one of the more powerful. It's 652 horsepower, 406 torque as well. That is a lot from a 2-litre engine. In fact, there's a lot of bonnet. If anything, there is more bonnet on this car / space in the front than anywhere else for a tiny 2-litre engine, but there we go. We haven't got pushrod, no, tell a lie, actually, we have got pushrod suspension at the back. It's just hidden a little bit more, I think, up in there. It's, you know, got a hopefully decent amount of grip. Not the largest tyres we've ever seen, but shouldn't be, or hopefully won't be too bad. They are the semi-slick tyres. The downside with, of course, the downside of getting 600 horsepower out of a 2-litre engine is normally to do that sort of power, well, you've got to have some pretty impressive turbos, and if your gearing's even slightly out, turbo lag can be catastrophic. This, I'm happy to say, doesn't actually look too bad. A little bit understeery around these corners. It's actually a little bit understeery. It's perhaps not quite going to be able to carry the same corner speed as some that we have seen. My god, it accelerates well, though. Slightly scared of it through much of this course. Oh, okay, you know what, we're going to chuck it that way. Oh, just about get that one altogether. Let's not hit the concrete barrier through there. Let me sure it's not picking the front wheel up slightly in some of these corners. It's quite brutal in the old acceleration front this. I have to be a bit careful with putting the power down, because I think this is going to be more than happy to, well, slide around. It should be mighty quick down here, though. What are we going to see in terms of straight line speed? Oh, it cracks 100. Won't crack 100 quite and get stopped nicely, I don't think, unless you have a mega run onto that back straight. It's one of very, very few cars. The Nugget will still be the fastest car down that straight, but at least this is more controlled, although I think we might have had ABS doing its weird thing. We haven't had ABS failings for a little while, up until the stream last time out, where we saw quite a few cars end up with it. 23.7's not great. Did struggle with understeer and had a very, very dodgy moment. Every so often the brakes just stop. They just stop working on some of these cars. I thought for a while it was to do with the wheels vibrating. This tended to be on cars that have had weird wheel shaking going on. But the last couple of cars, this included, don't have any sort of vibrations going on, so it wouldn't be that. Like even under really heavy acceleration like there, for example, there is actually no shaking from the car, even when it's sort of going sideways. I think second gear is going to have to be the way to go out of these corners as well, just for the composure. I guess you may lose a fraction bit of time getting on the accelerator out of the turn, but if you put it in first, that transition from first to second, that's going to cost you more time. So yeah, second gear, the brakes has just stopped working again. This is a very, very quick car, and I do kind of need the brakes to work. I mean, no, it's not. The brakes aren't overheating, and I don't think it's got tiny brakes. It doesn't feel like it's tiny brakes, because that would at least be consistently bad. This is every so often you're going into a corner on the brakes and nothing happens. I'd be worried if it happens down at this end section, because that is one of the bigger braking zones. I don't know if we're going to go much better in terms of a lap time here. Oh, no, we're going to massively, massively overshoot there. I mean, it might not help that we are going faster in acceleration zones than a lot of cars because of the sheer power of this thing. That's a terrible run as well. One more try. The problem is, though, if I try and brake, if the ABS goes wrong, you're braking insanely early, and if I'm trying to brake... What? What? Okay, so this seems to be getting worse. It does seem to be getting worse with the car. Now, we do generally have a rule. If on the final run, a car has ABS failure going into the first corner. So you now go on the brakes early. If it has brake failure on the final run of a car, I will be allowed to restart it if it's that evident into the first corner. But you can see on the telemetry there, I am full on the brakes, and it's just not stopping the car. The ABS is freaking out, and I guess just releasing the brakes as I'm putting it on. Of course, this car without ABS would depends on how sharp you make the brakes. Of course, you could avoid the problem by not having ABS on the car, but you make the brakes too powerful, they are insanely difficult to deal with. The way Beam or automation cars work in Beam, they tend to need about like 15% brake pressure and everything locks up. So there's not really an easy. I think it's not really an easy solution. I don't know why it's some cars it affects. It does. I say it does tend to be on the madder vehicles. Though perhaps it's more noticeable on cars like this when you've got such a fast vehicle. Here we go, up through the gears once more. Glad it's not failing there. The problem is, like there, you've got to be committed. If you're not committed there, you're just going to lose so much time. So you've got to hope that it's working, because if it's not, you're going to have a big crash, or have to be braking about halfway down the straight. Don't hit the concrete as we weave our way through here. There we go, it's across the line. It's actually not it's a better run, 22.3, but it's not an amazing time. So much power, just not enough control. The brakes don't help, definitely. Randomly turning off brakes are not something that you want. But even those aside, I think it struggles a little bit too much through the corners. There's perhaps not quite enough grip in the turns to go with what is an insane amount of acceleration. Interesting vehicle, very interesting vehicle to drive. Little bit too difficult, perhaps, for the autocross course. Well, we move from a 650 horsepower mad machine to something a little bit more, I guess, normal. A little bit more everyday, almost. This is the Rye Export, made by Stephen F. It is all-wheel drive, i3 turbocharged powered machine, 183 horsepower in the engine, only 150 torque, and it is 1,500 kilos. It is, yeah, it's a normal road car, basically. It's got normal road tyres as well on it. Probably going to struggle around here, I'm going to be honest. The engine, power to weight ratio isn't great. We have had vehicles with the 180 horsepower go very quickly around here. They have also weighed approximately 600 kilos. In fact, we've had very, very quick cars go with, well, 69 horsepower, the K car engine size, because they've weighed sub 400 kilos. Being incredibly light is a huge advantage around here. Being incredibly light is a massive advantage. Just the amount of quarter speed you can take. This, actually, to give credit where credit is due, it's on normal road tyres and is heavy, actually is changing direction pretty well. The acceleration is always going to hurt it. You know, when you're this much down in terms of power, cars with twice the power and half the weight have been going around here. They're the fast, they're going to be setting the records. This is going to, struggle that little bit more. What are we going to see straight line speed wise? Now we have got it on to the back straight. 58 miles an hour. The giddy heights of 58 miles an hour. There's going to be a gear down there somewhere. I think we have to go to first on the exit. If we're out of power bands with this car, we're going to have real trouble. You can get away with some, but in something like this, you're going to have to be a little bit careful. Lap time is actually going to be. That is a fairly respectable lap time considering the vehicle that we were driving, a 34.5. Definitely a little bit of room for improvement on that. Considering this is essentially a normal road car. Again, we've seen a fair few of these sort of stuff turn up for this competition. It's been interesting. There are plenty of purpose-built, out and out track cars turn up here, built, specifically for autocross. And then there are people have entered cars that are not specifically designed for autocross. Maybe the engine might have been to fit the regulations and so on, but the rest of the car is a replica of something, or designed to be in this case, a sensible kind of SUV thing. And a 33 from road tyres, 1,500 kilos. I mean, that's actually more respectable than I thought it was going to be. It does actually drive pretty well. It's a little bit soft on the old suspension front. Again, for a road car, that's to be expected. The ultra-stiff race cars that go around here very quickly, sure, work great on this perfectly perfectly flat piece of terrain, but wouldn't work, well, anywhere where there's a slight bump. Hell, even some cars have vibrated themselves around this particular circuit, and this is, you know, a perfectly flat track. Oh, we got to 61 miles an hour that time. The giddy heights of 61 miles an hour. But yeah, for all of the weight and potential lack of grip from tyres, I am impressed with the actual quarter speed. If this had a little bit more power, this could actually could have potentially caused a serious upset, because it is changing direction very, very well. It's a 31.9. That's a lot quicker than I was expecting. That is a lot quicker than I was expecting. Now, that sort of time is putting it with the rear-wheel drive, fair few sort of rear-wheel drive cars and so on. Yeah, it has got the advantages of all-wheel drive traction. Although, truth be told, I don't think if this was rear-wheel drive, it'd probably be much slower, really. There's not enough power for us to, I wouldn't have thought, see that much in terms of wheels, but not when you've got this sort of weight and going on. There's always going to be a bit of advantage to all-wheel drive around here, of course, but I'm more impressed with this than I thought I was going to be. I really thought we were going to be having very little fun and trundling around in the 40s somewhere with this kind of car, and it really isn't. It would probably be a vehicle, again, it's another one that this would get a field of these together, and you'd probably have good fun racing. It wouldn't be fast racing, but an entire pack of these together would probably be a lot of fun. You could even throw in a rallycross course or something. It might deal with that. I don't know how good the suspension is when it comes to the off-roading side of things, but hope that it would be all right as an overall vehicle. Oh, I did press X. Apparently, didn't want to do a downshift. That might cost us a small bit of time. One more braking zone to go for the car. Get it slowed down there. We've just got the wiggle towards the finish line for our more sensible road-going SUV. It's not going to be a faster lap time. Still, pretty good to drive. Pretty damn good to drive, actually, for what it is. And a very, very respectable time for what is a car not necessarily built, certainly not fully specialised in autocross, shall we say. We move from a kind of modern SUV to a modernish pickup truck. Fairly similar ideas. This one, a rear-wheel drive turbocharged i4 built by Santi Sky. This is the Griffin Trekker Sport. 177 horsepower, 180 torque. Similar in weight though, at 1,520 kilos, actually slightly lighter. We have got leaf springs at the back. It looks like a ladder chassis. It is not on off-road tyres, thankfully, but it is not on semi-slicks either. We have had our slowest car ever around here was a pickup truck running on off-road tyres. This is probably not going to be as nice to drive as our previous car. It also doesn't turn. There is no turning in this at all. Right, sub 2 minutes are where we're going to be looking probably for trying to achieve with this. Good God, that's not good through these corners. Look at it go. I mean, we can do 30 mile an hour and sliding, and that's a thing. I don't want to have another car that can only be driven by sticking the rear out, but I might have to with how badly the front of this turns in. It's not the quickest way around a corner with most of the cars that we have around here. It might have to be with this because the front end is awful. I'm not sure they connected the steering wheel here. There's no real grip at the front. There's no real grip at the rear. There's not much go in it. Yeah, this is more of what I expected. Well, I say more of what I expected the last SUV to be. I didn't expect it to be, a nice, elegantly poised car. I expected it to be a fight really to get it around the corners. This is a fight to get it around the corners. God dear, I gotta try to do as little steering movement as I just can't turn in. Because as soon as we turn in, we get all the understeer. I can't use like full steering lock with this because you'll just push onwards. So I'm trying to use little steering lock. You just keep finding understeer and understeer and understeer, and it's actually a little bit slower down the straight. I don't think it has ABS. Not that's going to bother me through most of this. Yeah, I mean, this is already slow. This is miles slower than that SUV that went, oh, come on, turn in, you bugger. It may well become one of the slowest vehicles, if not the slowest. What are we going to do? Oh, we are going to do a sub 2 minutes. It's not the slowest, it's better than the pickup truck with off-road tyres, but only a little bit. 59.3. Christ, how am I going to get this to go quicker? I'm not sure. I mean, I'm going to give it a try, of course, but I'm not really sure what more there can be done with this, because it's just wants to oversteer or there's no sensible turning in this whatsoever. It is massive understeer or this. I don't know which is better. Neither is particularly good. I'm kind of tempted to try going for the no, oversteer's not worked because it's not quite. I can't quite get the transition right through there. That is the problem with trying to drive it like this. We have had one all-wheel drive car that did have to be driven like this because it didn't actually turn. But this is quite a awkward thing. It's really this downside with this is the all-wheel drive car that we could essentially slid the entire way around because the front end didn't work. That could get away with it because at least it had enough power. This doesn't really have enough power to get away with it. I'm going to just go down to first, aren't I? It's just there's nowhere near enough anything in this. Well, as I said before, it's interesting to see how these unsuitable cars fare. I mean, at least the brakes are working well enough. We haven't had any more ABS issues. They're not overheating. They are doing a decent enough job of stopping it, mainly because it's only ever doing about 40 miles an hour around here. But I mean, even then, we've had some cars with all sorts of weird braking issues. There we go. We're onto our back straight quite neatly this time around. It is 60 miles an hour and a big lock up. This guy. So the brakes are working, but it is still 1.5 tons of truck that we've got to try and slow down. And I was busy trying to get it to 60, and another braking zone to come here. Get the truck slowed for this. Still understeering out very, very wide. This is a terrible, terrible run. I'm gonna have to. God, I don't even know what way. I say it's a terrible run. I'm actually gonna go faster. It felt like a terrible run. How on earth am I gonna get more speed out of this? I feel like I want to try and drive it. Slowly. I feel like I want to drive it very precisely, but it's very, very difficult to drive it very precisely. You can get away with... we've had some sort of like classic sports cars, 60s, 70s style sports cars run around here, and you can kind of do okay with them when you drive them very, very precisely. This, though, doesn't even have the grip to do that, so I'm not sure whether I'm going to make up time or lose time doing this sort of stuff. Try and not put on too much steering lock to get massive... like, normally through these slow corners, you can go full steering lock. Because you go so slow, you go full steering lock and cars will find grip. This won't. This will just understeer if you try it. We're getting cars. There are cars that will take this corner at 40 miles an hour. I think 44 is about the fastest we've seen through there. This is understeering chronically at 29. And I know I say that doesn't sound like a huge amount of difference, but when you are talking about 40 miles an hour, 11 plus miles an hour difference, that's a big percentage gain. It's a very, very big percentage gain. Right, now this is another sort of section I don't really want to have to deal with in the pickup, but it's quite wide. There's only so much that I can do really with this. Don't know whether maybe getting the rear out a little bit there, just try and get it turned. That will kind of work, and let's not push it too far down here, trying to get it to 60 miles an hour again. Let's focus on just getting it stopped. Even trying to turn it at 20 miles an hour is too much to ask for the pickup. Still going to get some more understeer there, and a little bit of oversteer on the exit. I think this is a better run. I think this is going to be a better run. I'm not 100% sure, really. It's more controlled, and we're less likely to make a mistake in this manner. But I don't know whether it's going to be faster. Come on, stop wiggling, stop wiggling. Come on, power down. There we go. It's better run. 54.1. It's far too big and heavy, that much is true, but more importantly is just the severe lack of grip. There is none of it. And let's face it, we're not surprised. This is a very basic sort of a setup. There's a ladder chassis, it's what's torsion bar at the front, leaf springs at the back, you know. We're talking old tech in a big heavy underpowered vehicle. I mean, I'm kind of glad it's underpowered because a lot of power in this would not be fun. Got sub 2 minute. That's the best I think that we can say about the truck. Our final vehicle to run today is something a little bit more suitable. This built by MetaSolo. It is the Skulkran Motors Tyson. All-wheel drive, flat six, actually a really good looking car. From the front, has an okay wing. I wouldn't quite go full mighty wing, but decent sized wing. A naturally aspirated flat six in this 247 horsepower, 170 torque. We have got push rod suspension going on at the back, you know, racing suspension all around. What tyres have we got on this? It's another road, a lot of road tyres going today. It might stand a chance of going quick amongst the road tired vehicles. 944 kilos, the lightest car to run today. A huge amount of noise, of course, because it's a flat six, and some flat sixes are the noisiest engines in the world, apparently. Here we go. We should actually have some grip, which will be nice for, I say, for a change. Certainly after the pickup we just drove. It's not going to have as much grip, of course, as a semi-slick tired vehicle, but I mean, it's actually turning into corners. It is still a touch understeery. I need to at some point remember what is the fastest of the... Oh, we're going to go for some sliding through there. Not really intentional, but there we go. What is the fastest of the non-race tired, semi-slick tired vehicles? Because, yeah, this is never going to be able to compete. Not on a course, like, well, to be fair, not anywhere really, but certainly not on a course like this, where you're so many tight corners, and so the time lost through, you know, a single hairpin is going to be a noticeable chunk. That all being said, this is another. We've had a few good handling cars on these road tyres, and this is a good handling car. This is a very good handling car, accelerating nicely up towards the 80-mile-an-hour mark. Not too bad, kind of average straight line speed, and considering the power is nothing exactly horrendous, it's nowhere near record braking power, then it's not too bad, or a straight line speed. It's light, it's also nowhere near the lightest car, so it's all working, and it was all working up until that final corner, and that was a little too close to the concrete. I mean, it was going to be a quick lap, but it wasn't going to be a sub 120 from there. I think there's more to come from the car up until binned in. It was probably about 25 maybe. 20, yeah, maybe a low 25 for a first run, which is not bad at all. I don't know if we've had any road tyre cars go sub 20. I don't think so. I'd be very surprised if we had any road tyre cars go sub 20. However, it's not bad at all. It's big. There's kind of a bit of oversteer about it if you really put your foot down. There's kind of understeer initially, transitions to oversteer if you're a bit of a muppet with the throttle, but it's all nicely controllable. I kind of trust what the car is going to be doing, even though it is perhaps a little more lively than some of the vehicles that I would prefer, perhaps. I like to be able to jump on the power and have the car stick to the road. I like being able to have that confidence, especially around here, especially when you've only got 3 runs through a car. I don't want something unpredictable, and you really don't want a car slithering around trying to put its power down out of this section. I mean, yeah, it's all-wheel drive. You would expect it to have plenty of grip, although some all-wheel drive cars have been very oversteery, and that was incredibly close to the concrete barrier. We got away with it. Get on the power down towards our final big braking zone. Not quite got my braking sorted. Brakes are getting a little hot, not quite overheating, and they won't quite overheat by the end of the run. It's 24/7. Oh wow. Just seen the size of them brakes. Hold on. What is it with using milk bottle tops on the cars? I mean, I'm amazed this isn't overheating them. I am astounded this isn't overheating them. It isn't. I'm not noticing. I only sort of have looked because it's saw the temperature getting quite hot at the end of the straight, which isn't normal around here. This car gets away with it, but geez, is it only just. A couple more big stops and it would probably have issues, and they would probably have given up by the end of the course. I mean, they're doing pretty good at slowing this car down. I guess it helps with it being so light. I said so light. At the end of the day, if this was attached to, you know, 200 or 300 kilo heavier car, you might have some serious problems by that back straight. As it is, I mean, there's just less momentum to slow down some physics for you. So I guess they perhaps get away just staying that little bit cooler through these earlier stages, and that works when we get to the back straight. Still, it's a little touch scary, to say the least. I wish I hadn't seen it, to be honest, but here we go again. Please don't fail on me now. Oh, yeah, they do. Okay, that time we do actually get quite hot. It wasn't enough to make me think the car wasn't going to stop, though, so, you know, that's something, at least. It might be one of the best cars we've had go, considering it's on normal tyres and the brakes are teeny tiny. It is going pretty well. 24-1 for the car. That is a good showing. That is a good showing for that. Yeah, the brakes get scary, although don't actually really affect it all that much. There's just not time for them to overheat. The handling is great. It's great fun through the corners, and while it doesn't have the ultimate grip from the tyres, it is still very, very good fun to drive. 24-1 is a good time for a sensible road. We've actually had quite a lot of sensible, well, 3 sensible road cars and 1 650 horsepower utterly bonkers machine in which the brakes sometimes don't work. It's been an interesting week. It's been an interesting week indeed. On to the leaderboard, and the BHR would be fastest of the day. We'll go into a 79th place with the 122.3. It's a pretty mad car. The acceleration is immense on that. As I said, it is one of the fastest accelerating cars we have had, but braking trouble and just a lack of grip when it comes to the corners would hamper its overall run time. It's on a massively high positionings in this particular episode. It's a little further down. It's not bad though for the Tyson. 101st position for that at 24-1. I mean, lap times, run times here are pretty damn close. I mean, hell, there are 5 cars on a 24-3. It's all close for a car on standard tyres and tiny brakes. That is very, very good going. Our SUV will go a bit further down. It's in the 130s, of course, 31.9 for that. I'll go 138th. As I said when driving it, though, that is actually a really quite respectable time for what it is, considering it's underpowered, very, very heavy on normal tyres. That's actually a pretty good result, and it's a fun vehicle to drive, a lot more fun than it has any right or I expected it to be. And then finally we have the pickup truck. Yeah, it's down the bottom. It's not the slowest car to go around here. It'll go into 157th place. However, yeah, there's no grip, there's no turning, there's no rear end grip, there's not much power to get it going. So a 54-1 is all that could be managed with that particular vehicle. That, though, is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.